So how are you guys doing? I've got my window open. It's a nice day here in Eastern GTA in Oshawa. So I've got the window open and it's sunny. So you might hear some traffic. You might hear some motorcycle go by, but it's nice out. So whatever. But so Doug Ford is now the leader of the Ontario PC Party, and it looks like he's going to be the one who will take on Jezebel, Kathleen Cowperthwaite-Wynne, and Andrea Horvath, aka Little John. I call her Little John because she is just a minion of Kathleen Wynne. The NDP, the New Democrats, they are the Liberals' puppets. The NDP votes almost 100% of the time with Liberals, especially when it comes to social issues and issues such as raising the debt. I mean, Kathleen Jezebel Cowperthwaite-Wynne has like a 6% approval rating. And the reason why many Ontarians don't like her is because Ontario has the largest debt of any sub-region on the planet. Our hydro rates are some of the most expensive in the world. And all this billions of dollars wasted, especially with the gas plant scandal, which she was heavily involved with when she was a cabinet minister under Dalton McGuinty. And on top of that, the Liberals are cutting very important services like autism services, autistic care, and for people over a certain age, cutting into healthcare, cutting in so many vital areas. There are some schools in Ontario that don't even have cafeterias in them, which is a disaster. Yet we have the largest debt on the planet when it comes to sub-regions. So of any state in the world, of any province in the world, of any region in the world, all their debt, Ontario has the highest, which is and we have nothing to show for it. We're cutting all this stuff and we have all this debt. But so Doug Ford is running against the Liberals and the NDP, who have voted with the Liberals most of the time, and all that debt, the NDP have voted for legislation which made that debt so high. So if you think that voting for the NDP would be any better, they talk a good game at election time, but they are just like Jezebel, who I call Kathleen Wynne as Jezebel, if not worse. Bob Rae was just like probably, I don't know, I think Bob Rae was probably Kathleen Wynne's father, because he was the one that was racking up the debt and all that stuff, and he was NDP. So the only other alternative is the Doug Ford and the Ontario Progressive Conservative Party. And I hate that name for that party. There is no such thing as a progressive conservative. I think maybe we should rename the party the Populist Conservative Movement of Ontario. That's what I would call it. But whatever. We got Doug Ford in there, and he's the only alternative. Now, a lot of people are saying, oh, well, Doug Ford is just like Donald Trump. He acts like Donald Trump. He is just like Donald Trump. And that worries me. I don't want Donald Trump in Canada. Let me tell you something about this election. A vote for Doug Ford would actually be a vote against Donald Trump. Donald Trump does not want to see Doug Ford as Premier of Ontario. And Donald Trump does not want to see Andrew Scheer as Prime Minister of Canada. Donald Trump wants to see Justin the Mac Daddy, long-haired, swift-foot Mac Daddy Trudeau remain as Prime Minister forever, and Kathleen Wynne as Premier, for one very, very important reason. And it's a genius reason. Because those two, along with Rachel Notley, drive so many jobs into the United States. It's not even funny. Donald Trump has had so many of our jobs come into his country. It's like Christmas Day for America. And I'm not blaming Donald Trump. I have nothing against. I like Donald Trump. I think he's doing great for America. He's bringing jobs back. GDP is at 4%, but he's doing it. We are the victims of that. As a consequence, Canada is shrinking. America's going, and it's genius he's doing. You can't man. It's his country. He's trying to make America great again. It's not his fault that we in Canada keep electing stupid, dumb, foolish leaders who should probably be in prison, who don't care about our country, but who care. First of all, our prime minister cares about other countries in the world. And we have a premier who is so economically incompetent, it's not even funny. I mean, how do you rack up the largest debt of any sub-region in the world, and yet you're cutting services? How does that happen? Incompetence. And then we're going to bring in a carbon tax and cap and trade, which gives even more jobs to the Americans. They're cutting taxes. They're cutting regulations. And as a result, they're taking our jobs because the business people in Canada are saying, America's the place to invest. But with Doug Ford, that's not going to happen. Doug Ford is going to stop the flow of jobs going into the United States, cutting regulations, cutting taxes, and at the same time helping the little guy. And he did it with his brother when they were running the city of Toronto. Mostly poor people like the Fords. Let me tell you something. They can't. That's the one thing. And I said this in the beginning. Kathleen Jezebel Cowperthwaite Wynne, the worst day of her premiership was when she found out that Doug Ford was going to be running against her. Doug Ford gets mostly poor voters. And on top of that, he gets ethnic voters. Black voters. You look at Ford Nation. You go to a Ford rally. You think you're falling into a rainbow pit. There's black people, there's Chinese people, there's Arab people with things on their head. I mean, there's hardly, really, to be honest with you, the only whites there are like working class whites, middle class, blue collar whites. You don't see frou-frou white people at Ford rally. You don't see that. That's the thing. So Kathleen Wynne is going to really have a tough time. Now, I have to knock on wood because I don't want to jinx it. I don't want to jinx it because, I mean, you can jinx it. And I do believe in the power of the jinx. But it's going to be tough. It's going to be very, very tough. My family, with the exception of myself, because I consider myself an independent populist conservative, I don't support any specific party. I only support parties that fall closer in line with my independent populist conservative beliefs. Now that could be the Conservative Party, that could be the Trillium Party tomorrow. We just have to see. But right now it's Doug Ford and the Progressive Conservatives who I'm going to be supporting. But my family is pretty much all liberal, left wing. But all of them say to me, Michael, all of them who are in Ontario, they say, we're voting for Doug Ford. Some of them are going to be voting for a progressive conservative for the first time in their life. They're like, I never thought I would be doing this. I never thought I would be voting progressive conservative, but I'm doing it because Doug Ford is the leader. And it's like, for the first time, my family and I are on the same page politically. You know how beautiful that is? It's just amazing. We're all out there, black, white, Chinese, Muslim, men, women, all out there trying to take our province back and put Ontario back on top and fight the establishment. In both parties, probably, actually, to be honest with you. But everybody's saying, oh, Donald Trump, Donald Trump. Let me tell you something. The moment you get, this is Donald Trump's worst nightmare. Worst nightmare. This is something he dreads. Doug Ford is premier. Jason Kenney is premier of Alberta. Scott Moe as premier of Saskatchewan. And Andrew Scheer as Prime Minister of Canada. That's it. Donald Trump can kiss all them Canadian jobs goodbye. He will not see another Canadian job ever again. And in fact, many of those jobs that left for America might even come back. Lower taxes, cut regulations, cut red tape, get rid of the carbon tax, the job-killing carbon tax. Lower our hydro bills by getting rid of the Green Energy Act in Ontario and demonopolizing our hydro industry so it can be more competitive so the consumer decides the price. Those are job creators. They'll come right back. They will come right back. They will. They will. And jobs will stop going to America. That's Donald Trump's worst nightmare. Listen, 72% of Canadians say they disapprove of Donald Trump. And people will say, oh, it's because he's racist. And that's not the reason. It's because he's taken all of our jobs. Of course, even I would say I would do. But the reason I'm not against him is because I know that Trump's method is the way to create prosperity. We need something like that here. We can't just have leaders who just open up our legs and allow ourselves to be raped by America. The United States has become to Canada what Mexico used to be to America before Trump. Mexico used to send in its illegals into America, illegal, and they would take American jobs and they would go to Mexico. Now that's stopped, but look what's happening to Canada. We're getting all of America's illegals. All of America's illegals are coming through. You've seen the news. You've seen CBC. You've seen CTV. You've seen City News. You've seen Global. You've seen the papers. All these illegals are coming to Canada, but America's taking our jobs. So our leaders are just sitting there with their mouths wide open, allowing America and Trump to rape us. Rape us of our jobs. But then give us all the illegals. Just go on in illegals. Take all our resources. Go on welfare all you want. It's okay. We give the illegals a dome in Montreal. Meanwhile, we have Toronto people in December in Toronto freezing to death out there. Born and bred, but the refugees automatically get free laptops, free dental care, free college tuition, free housing, all this sort of stuff. And in BC, apparently, many of the loans that they get, they don't have to pay back. I mean, I could give you the article. And Canadians aren't getting any of that, but we get all these illegals from America and all over the world, and the world is taking our jobs and taking our wealth. The Mac Daddy gives billions of dollars to other countries to help them with their problems. I've told you the videos several times. Indonesia, the Middle East, Africa, all these Jordan, all these countries have taken. I mean, that's what's happening. That's what's happening. And then, of course, Ontario is the worst of the situation. I mean, if Canada's in a bad position, Ontario is the worst of the worst inside the bad position. But then you got Doug Ford who's going to say, no, Cheeto over there in America ain't taking any more of our jobs. He's not going to take one more job from Canada, or Ontario, I should say. I will not let it happen. And we should actually go further. I think Doug Ford should say that he's going to punish any jobs that lay off all their workers in Canada and move to America. They should be punished. Any product that they try to bring into Canada, we put a tariff on it. And by the way, I think we should also say to Trump, and I have nothing against Trump. I like Trump. I'm a dual citizen. I voted for Trump in America. I like Trump. I think what he's doing for America is good. But the thing is that it's coming at a cost to Canada, but it doesn't have to be that way. We just need to get rid of these liberal and socialist leaders and politicians and globalist politicians that we have, and it really wouldn't matter if there's Trump or not. It wouldn't matter. But that's what's happening with our country, and he's putting tariffs on our stuff. We should say, well, we're going to put tariffs on your stuff, and we will use that tariff money, the money that your companies pay us in tariffs, and we'll divvy it up and give it to any company that had to pay tariff on Canadian products. We have to use our heads here. But Doug Ford is so far he's the man. He is the man for the job. He's going to create. He was a businessman. He's worked for Deco labels. He knows how the business. He's not like Wynne, who's never. I mean, Kathleen Wynne racked up all this debt and taking all our jobs and giving it to Donald Trump. You claim to hate Donald Trump, Ontario and Canada, but I'm going to tell you this. You vote for Kathleen Wynne, you're voting for Donald Trump. Vote for Doug Ford, you're voting for Ontario. I hate when motorcycles do that. But anyway, in closing, a vote for Kathleen Jezebel Cowperthwaite Wynne is a vote for Trump, and a vote for Doug Ford is a vote
for Ontario. This is the Arana